This is Campus News, reporting the top stories from colleges and universities.
Next on Campus News.
An MSUM graduate is turning his family's tragedy into change.
See how M-State is using mannequins to teach nursing students real-life skills.
One NDSU program is getting a big upgrade thanks to a generous donation.
These unlikely neighbors are establishing a new pecking order. Good morning and welcome to Campus News. I'm Chris Hovden.
And I'm Sayla Jakeway. A former MSU Moorhead student is leading the push for a new Minnesota bill to increase access to life-saving medication.
Reporter Drew Berg met with the graduate to hear how he wants to turn his family tragedy into change.
Well, my name is Will Rops, and I am here to testify in support of this bill here, SF 164.
MSUM alum Will Rops is taking a post-graduation path different from most. Rops is the leading voice behind a bill that would put the opioid response drug naloxone in student dorms. However, Rops's motivations for the bill come from a tragic loss he faced just 3 years ago.
I'm here today because I want to save lives, and I want to protect other families from experiencing the tragedy that mine has.
In 2022, Rops's brother Justin died after an overdose from fentanyl. Despite calling it one of the worst times of his life, Rops knew there was potential to make it more than just a loss.
I was spending a lot of energy on my brother's death, and a lot of it was negative, and I decided, like, if I'm going to waste all this time thinking about it and committing time to it, I should do something positive with it, because that's what he would want me to do.
The bill aims to make naloxone easier to access for emergencies. The drug can be administered as a nasal spray, which authorities say can make it easier to use quickly.
This is what Narcan nasal spray looks like, and it's very simple to use. You put this in someone's nostril and you just press the plunger all the way in, and that is how you dispense the medication.
While Rops is proud of how far his bill has made it, he wants to remind everyone that he's just a regular person.
I'm not special. I'm not some political genius. I just looked stuff up and thought of a good idea and went and talked to my legislator. Like, it wasn't some crazy thing.
Despite downplaying his accomplishments, Rops is well on the path to turning his brother's death into real change. Rops's bill is working its way through the Minnesota State Senate, where it has received bipartisan support along the way.
Thank you.
Drew Berg, Campus News.
The bill is currently being discussed by the state's Higher Ed Committee. A judge in the Dominican Republic has granted a request for freedom for a St. Cloud State student who is believed to be the last person to see a woman who disappeared while on spring break. In this security camera video, Joshua Reby can be seen with Seduksha Kanaki while headed to the beach. Reby said he last saw her walking in knee-deep water before he fell asleep. The judge's decision means Reby will no longer be under surveillance, but he has not been given back his passport. Kanaki's parents believe she may have drowned and have asked for her to be declared dead. The judge is expected to rule on Reby's habeas corpus request on March 28th. That will determine if his detention was lawful.
If you're driving by NDSU, you might notice quite a bit of construction. It's all a part of a more than $100 million project. I spoke with students to learn more about what the new engineering building will mean for their education.
All right, you're disconnected. Go ahead and cable up. Cable up.
Cranes, trucks, and steel bars
All right, she's all yours.
fill NDSU campus streets as the university works to build a new state-of-the-art engineering building.
3, 2, and 1. Let's hold that.
The Richard Offerdahl 65 Engineering Complex, also known as Offerdahl Hall.
One of the things that I think is going to be a really cool experience is it's the design studio that'll be on the main floor right here in the main big area. It'll be a place for them to showcase all the cool things that they do on campus.
NDSU says the new complex will replace outdated facilities and provide a centralized space for the College of Engineering. Students will gain hands-on experience with classes like a metal fabrication facility, wood shop, welding labs, and extensive 3D printing capabilities.
Some of the highlights are going to be the new labs. I know that for ag and biosystems, they're getting an entire garage bay where you can fit a whole combine in it. And skyways are going to be nice. They're going to have skyways connecting basically the entire length of the campus. It's just going to be a new state-of-the-art facility. It's really going to be the most up-to-date facility in the region.
The more than $100 million complex received the largest single donation for a building project in university history. From the help of multiple donations, Offerdahl Hall is set to open in 2026.
With Richard Offerdahl's $25 million contribution to the project, that sent us past our goal for the okay to start building.
The next steps of the construction will include setting up the base and foundation, putting up the steel framework,
Beautiful.
and laying the foundation for the North Skywalk. Sayla Jakeaway,
Yeah, buddy.
Campus News. The building's namesake, Richard Offerdahl, graduated from NDSU in 1965 with a degree in electrical engineering. The Department of Education is investigating 45 universities over alleged racial discrimination, including the University of North Dakota and the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities. In a letter from the department's Office for Civil Rights, the colleges are ordered to stop using race as a factor in educational programs and activities, including admissions and scholarships. The order comes over concerns over the PhD Project, an organization that supports doctoral students, limits eligibility based on race. The department says these practices violate Title 11 of the Civil Rights Act. The U of M's Twin City campus is also one of 6 schools accused of awarding race-based scholarships. If universities violate Title 11, they can lose their federal funding.
Harvard is now offering free tuition to students whose families earn $200,000 a year or less. The move is aimed to increase diversity at the school after a Supreme Court ruling banned the use of racial preference in college admissions. The university will also make school completely free for students whose families make $100,000 a year or less, covering things like tuition, food, and housing. The median household income in the U.S. is about $80,000 a year. The new income cap will start this fall. MSUM is implementing a new program designed to help students save on the cost of textbooks.
Reporter Drew Berg tells us how the program is getting a kick start on the campus and what professors have to say about the initiative.
College students across the nation have been facing the rising costs of textbooks and other classroom materials. That's why MSUM is joining a statewide initiative that hopes to make the price of college less expensive.
Z degree is all about just do the students get access to the materials that they need to complete the class for free.
The Minnesota state system started the Z degree program at the community college level in 2017, and it's recently shown promise at the 4-year level. While slight course changes may be necessary, most professors don't have to adjust much for the program.
I haven't really noticed any differences so far, and I think that's kind of a good thing.
MSUM hopes the new initiative can help make the financial side of college less stressful, especially for students who come from less privileged backgrounds.
Affordability is a huge piece of it, but there's also, the equity piece and the accessibility piece is huge.
Ladbury is one of a handful of MSUM professors that are already teaching Z degree courses, and his students appreciate the lower cost.
It's really nice, especially when you have a class that you buy a $200 textbook and then you go in, having a free class is way better.
MSUM was given $100,000 from the state in 2024 to develop Z degree courses. The university hopes it will be able to offer students a full associate's degree from Z degree courses by spring 2026. Drew Berg, Campus News.
Since its inception, the Z degree program has saved students in the Minnesota state system over $12.6 million.
Columbia University says it has now suspended or expelled some of the students involved in last year's protest. The students barricaded themselves inside of a campus building after a group of student organizations demanded the university divest from its financial ties to Israel. Police were eventually called to remove the protesters. The university says its judicial board has also temporarily revoked the degrees of some of the protesters. MSUM is celebrating its history by honoring the legacy of Professor Emeritus Dr. Yvonne Condell and her late husband, James. I spoke with Dr. Condell and the campus community to learn more about the couple's impact in Moorhead and beyond.
We celebrate Black history by uplifting voices who have came before us. We acknowledge the struggle that they've endured and recognize that the achievements have propelled society forward.
At 93 years old, Dr. Yvonne Condell visits with friends and MSUM students and staff. Moments later, she accepts the MSUM Lifetime Achievement Award that honored her and her late husband, James Condell.
James and Yvonne Condell, trailblazers, breaking barriers and building bridges through their unwavering dedication to education, equity, and justice.
The Condells were the first African-American couple to teach at MSUM.
See, African-American could not get a graduate degree in the South because we were discriminated. We could not go to those white institutions.
For decades, the Condells have provided scholarships to more than 4 dozen students through the James and Yvonne Condell Endowed Scholarship, a foundation that was initially started by a small business investment that quickly grew by the thousands.
We received a big check saying you have earned $30,000 for whatever it is you invested in. So I said to Jeff, we didn't know we had it, so it's going to the university.
Any scholarship, it's a good feeling, you know, you work for those scholarships. It was even more rewarding than it was when I actually heard about it, just because now I know the background of it.
Dr. Condell says she appreciates the pathway MSUM gave her.
I think having an opportunity to do the work and not be stereotyped. For example, an African-American woman could be a professor, department chair, even president.
Thank you for being a supporter of the arts. Thank you for being a woman of science. And thank you for being a true example of what Black excellence means in America.
Sayla Jakeaway, Campus News. The James and Yvonne Condell Scholarship has grown to $300,000 in funding. Their goal is to reach $500,000. That would make it the biggest endowed scholarship at MSUM.
20 states, including Minnesota, have filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration over its job cuts at the Education Department. The suit argues that by getting rid of half of its staff, the department is abandoning its responsibilities, like awarding federal student aid and investigating civil rights issues. This is the 8th lawsuit in the last month to be filed against the Trump administration over its educational policies. M-State in Moorhead is celebrating the opening of its new Health Simulation Center, a high-tech facility for nursing students that blends the classroom with the real world.
While the facility isn't being used for classes yet, reporter Derek Finkston shows us what the center has in store for future students.
From mannequins with blinking eyes and pulses,
There she goes,
to a virtual lab with scans of real human bodies.
Everybody gets really, oh, this is so cool.
M-State's new simulation center brings new tools to the educational operating table.
Because it looks a lot more realistic. They can feel pulses. So instead of just saying, pretend you would feel this, or pretend we would do this, they actually get to do it, which I think makes a huge difference in their learning. And they are a lot more excited to be with these simulators than the old school mannequins that don't really do anything.
Dr. Erica Berg is the director of practical nursing at M-State.
So when you push down on it, they're not going to have that pain when you push down, but as soon as you release it, that's when that pain is going to happen.
She says that with the simulation center, the college hopes to bridge any knowledge gaps from classroom studies into real practice.
We can simulate real-life scenarios in here in a safe environment so the students can practice hands-on procedures, treatments, medication administration with these patients at the bedside before they go into the real world.
Along with the mannequin simulations that give students a chance to practice working with a patient, the virtual cadaver lab gives them a new way to look at a human body.
I was able to rotate the human heart as it was pumping to see the back of the human heart. And I said to the students, unless you are a cardiac surgeon and you're working on heart replacement or valve replacement or bypass surgery, you're never going to see the backside of a human heart.
With all 4 M-State campuses set to use the facility starting in the fall, the Simulation Center will be an important part in teaching the next generation of nursing students. Derek Finkston, Campus News.
M-State has already collected the money for more additions to the Simulation Center, including a mannequin designated to simulate the birthing process. An NDSU doctoral student is using artificial intelligence to make the lives of caregivers of people with Alzheimer's easier. Add Query Aid is an AI system that will answer any questions a caregiver might have. The information is gathered from online research, other patient experiences, and personal information provided by the caregiver. This allows the system to give answers specific to a patient's unique situation, while other AI systems give a more generic response.
It knows about you, it knows about the person that you're caregiving for. So it has the knowledge. For example, you're taking some medications and that medication has some side effects. If you ask a question to ChatGPT, hey, my mother is feeling drowsy or something like that, ChatGPT doesn't know what your mother is taking, what medications and what are the side effects, but this system knows.
After graduating this spring, Hassan will head to the U of M, where he'll continue to help the team at NDSU make the system even more user-friendly and efficient.
Minnesota State Moorhead's Association for Computing Machinery is trying to get more students involved in a trend that's sweeping many parts of the industry, 3D printing. As reporter Dallas Correll shows us, one student is working to make sure his knowledge gets passed on.
In MSUM's Bridges Hall, students are gathering into the Linux lab, all there to learn about one thing, 3D printing. Leading the group is MSUM student Judah Nava. In this meeting, Nava is teaching other students how to assemble and disassemble these 3D printers. Nava himself got into 3D printing not too long ago.
My computer science teacher brought in a printer and some of the students had the opportunity to work with it. Unfortunately, I wasn't one, but I really didn't know what 3D printing was at the time. It wasn't until here that I got really into it.
3D printing has found its purpose in plenty of industries, including healthcare, construction, and countless others. So it's important that the knowledge of 3D printers gets passed on, which is why NAVA and the ACM hold these meetings.
It has 2 purposes. One, to bring more awareness of 3D printing, and then I'll be leaving this semester, so I have to move the information, the wisdom, the information onto our next person who's in charge of the 3D printing.
As 3D printing continues to grow, it's more important than ever to get people interested in it and the jobs that use 3D printers. Dallas Correll, Campus News.
The ACM also hosts events aimed to teach students about microcontrollers, coding, and the use of AI. Students and staff at MSUM are being asked to break out some red shirts as part of an initiative to support military-connected students. The Veterans Club is asking people on campus to wear red on Fridays. RED is an acronym for Remember Everyone Deployed. Any red clothes will do, but special shirts are available in the bookstore. Even though the initiative was created over 20 years ago, the MSUM Veterans Resource Director says it matches perfectly with the university's goals.
Since I started here, it's been one of the initiatives to try and do some salute to service apparel, and this just actually ended up being the first thing that made sense to do. It was easy for the bookstore to make it happen. So
there are over 200 military-connected students at MSUM. Just over half of them are veterans or current service members. If you've been in Moorhead, you've probably seen these roosting residents in unlikely places.
Reporter Nate Cohn tells us why our nesting neighbors are here to stay.
They make appearances kind of in weird places all over.
So they can go wherever they want.
They found a good foothold here.
And they do create a mess.
They present unique challenges wherever they show up, so.
That's right, turkeys have taken over Moorhead. Turkeys like these ones right behind me here have been appearing all over the place. City streets, resident yards, and right here on the campus of MSUM. Turkeys have been in Moorhead for over 30 years, and around 150 call the city home. The birds can cause problems for residents, especially traffic trouble.
The big one, at least that I've noticed, is traffic. When they're crossing the roads, they tend to flock together and they stand still in the roadways. And
food is the main cause for the turkey's migration. So where's it coming from? The answer? Moorhead's own residents.
They're not naturally hunting for their own food, they're getting it fed to them, or they're taking food that's been put out for a different animal or things like that. It causes them to not be as scared.
The number of turkey-related incidents has gone down since a city ordinance was created in 2020 that prohibited residents from feeding them. Turkey incidents do still happen, however, but there are a few things you can do should you cross paths with our gobbling neighbors.
making loud noises, kind of making yourself appear larger. Anything you can do to kind of establish your presence.
So why not relocate the turkeys? Well, you can take the bird out of the city, but not the city out of the bird.
You know, there is some urbanization that happens with them being in the city, so they start changing their behaviors, which isn't good for them.
With no other options available, it seems Moorhead residents will have to continue adapting to its feathered friends, just as they have done to Moorhead. Nate Cohn, Campus News.
Unfortunately for drivers in Moorhead, the turkey population isn't expected to change anytime soon. And that's it for this edition of Campus News.
We leave you with more of our feathered friends.
Thanks for joining us, and have a great week.
Campus News is produced by the Television News Workshop in the School of Communication and Journalism at Minnesota State University Moorhead, in cooperation with Prairie Public Television.